into the book again, page 171, listeners. Spoiler alert, somewhat. Mary is dressing as a boy, aka man. What, without giving away too much, but again, we'll just sort of tease the listeners. Why and what did your research say about this?
So she had to go to Boston. She had to go, like because of something that happened in the book. So she had to go to Boston. But in order to go to Boston at them times, women could only travel with men and they could only go on liners. Like there had to be specific liners that carried passengers that you were allowed to go on. She didn't have the luxury of doing that, so she had to go via a different route. But in order for her to go, she had to dress as a man because she would not have been allowed on the boat. So she kind of got on dressed as a man and hid, like hid in the boat, hid away from everybody else in order to stay on that ship.
And we're not talking about boats that we know today. These were pretty rough boats,
These
I
were
would
like,
say.
yeah, like the big gold schooners. This one was the Newfoundland. So the Newfoundland, before she was a sailing vessel, she did carry cargo back and forth to the US. So down to Boston. So she was one, like she went down the Newfoundland at the time. Now later the Newfoundland was involved in the seal fishery and, all the stuff that surrounded that. But in before that, the Newfoundland was, carrying cargo back and forth, fish back and forth to the US.
But not to drag it out too long, but I mean, if you're carrying cargo, you're not a luxury liner. She was not
No,
traveling in style.
no, absolutely not. There was a couple of berths that were like enclosed, so she happened to get one of two or three, but everybody else would have been out in the like general population, just lying in
Wow.
bunks in a big open area. Yeah.
Wow. Page 181 and 182, another scene that is very, it takes a while from, like, even when I read it and reread it, it's like, wow, it's the setting of young Tommy Duke's arm. Where did you get the background information on this challenging scene? Like, that's pretty challenging there.
Again, I don't know. My imagination is just that weird. And like I read up on things and then I can visualize it and then I try to bring what I visualize to life. And so
Wow.
that's kind of how I did it.
Okay. We'll jump to one more spoiler alert, and then we'll see what happens from there. So, with regard to page 185, now, I will advise people that this can be a bit of a interesting scene. With Mary and a gentleman, I say that word very carefully, by the name of Pierce in the boat. I don't know about you, but when I was reading that scene, it was like, what is going on? And creativity, I'll use that word creativity for the listeners. When you're reading the scene, think about the word creativity. How did you find the calmness? Because I don't know, I wasn't calm reading it. So how did you find the calmness to write that scene?
Well, you have to invoke conflict in order to keep your readers, engaged. So this was probably one of the ultimate conflicts that she would come into, right? Because she had come from a little tiny place where everybody was friendly and helpful, and then she came across this criminal who was like he was murderous, and he wanted to do away with her. He wanted like if she got to Boston and he got to Boston, then he was doomed. So he wanted to do away with her. He managed to escape. He was being held captive on the boat until they got to wherever, and he wanted to just murder her. And he got in the room with her, and he was going to make away with her, but she wasn't having any of that.
Some
So
of the
she was a
creative
tough
ways
cookie.
that I got to give you some of the creative ways that you gave her the strength to like I said, try not to give away too much of a spoiler alert, but some of the creative ways. I mean, at one second, I'm there with my breath being held because I'm thinking she's not going to make it, and in the second breath, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, oh my God, like I would not think about this. So it's up to the reader to really find out what those creative ways were. But where did that, like, I mean, that's just amazing, like how you, without
Well,
giving
she only
away, we
had
don't want to
so
give away.
much to work with, and I think like women think different than men, like
Okay.
just from a from a survival piece. Like women are generally smaller, they're generally not as strong. And I say that not to say that women are not strong and not to,
Hmm.
provoke any kind of controversy over women versus men, but women have to think differently than
Okay.
men when it comes to survival. So she thought differently, and because of that, she was able to like overcome the difficulty and just get out of the room.
Wicked. I say the word wicked, and in a really positive way. It was just like I said. 1 minute I'm holding my breath, and the next minute I'm like literally laughing out loud, going, "Sweet mother of pearl!" Like, how in the name of did you come up with that one? So thank you for that scene because as much as it was challenging, it was uplifting in the sense that, well, that is cool. Like, I mean, you're fighting for the underdog, shall we say? So we've looked at the book. We've looked at Mary Rowe. We've looked at a room upstairs. We've looked at If I Cry, I'll Feel the Ocean. What's on the go for Ida Linehan Young these days? What's up?
Well, I got my next book to come out is coming out in spring of 2025, and it is Tilly, so it's a children's literature. I'm working on a like a police crime, murder, mystery thing. I don't know, something or other. And I'm well over halfway through that, and I'm really liking where it's going. It's like 1970s and today, so it's a little bit. I move in and out of genre. Like I just like to write. And if something is in the way of me writing something else, then I have to write it. So this is in the way of writing something else. So it has to be written from me, like from my mind. It has to be written out of my mind. So
Wow.
that's what I'm working on. I'm also doing some short stories and doing some blogs, and the blogs are generally just short stories, and they're all on my website. And I'm also doing some workshops, and I'm having some writing retreats in 2025 at my home in St. Bride's. So like I've already have some good uptake on that. I got some people locally, some people from Alberta have actually signed up for it and things like that. And so I'm looking forward to a busy year, not all writing, but creating and helping others create as well.
So if we need to find out more about what you're up to, check your website. And what's the website again? Remind us.
IdaLinehanYoung.ca. So just look up me, and that should come up in your Google search. And anytime I'm doing anything, there's retreats at the top of the bar on the website, and there's events. So like it'll be in events or it'll be in retreats.
Excellent. Cool. Um, the final word, because we're running close to time right now. We don't want to drag this out because we want people to really have a good time here. What do you have to say to your readers? What are your final words to your readers?
Just simply thank you. I wouldn't be writing if they weren't reading. I mean, maybe I would be writing, but it wouldn't be as much fun. I love the interaction with readers. Like I so love messages, pictures of books like all over the world, and messages from all over the world and questions like you're doing. Like I love it. I love the engagement. I love going out and doing signings at the mall or going to wherever. I just love the interaction with the reader because the reader prompts things in me by asking questions that lead to the next piece of work. So I just love it. Like I love it when people get mad because of something that happened in a book, or because someone is really happy because of something that happened in the book. So I don't know, I love it.
I don't want to end on a negative note, but you also appreciate and value if someone doesn't like certain things or something, you want to hear that too, correct?
Oh, 100%, because that's how I improve. I mean, if it's like we used to have the children playing basketball and stuff, right? And you're only as good as the better team that you play, right?
Mhm.
Like you only go to such a level by the whatever somebody throws at you. So what people throw at me is what I use to develop and grow as a writer. So I love it. Like, I don't want to hear all the good stuff. I don't want to hear all, I mean, I love hearing it, don't get me wrong, but I love everything because that is how you grow and how you shape your stories.
Don't want to take away your last word because I know we can compete with each other on who gets the last word here, but I'm going to give the listener a little bit of a heads up. We're not quite sure the next one we'll be doing because I hope we can get to do this again. Please and thank you. Uh, the next one after Mary Rowe is The Promise. And there is a scene in The Promise where you're going to want to read that book. And that's as much as I'm going to give the spoiler alert on, because suffice it to say, I think if you want to elaborate, you're welcome to do. I'll give you the last word on. We may not sure if like I said, if The Promise is the next one we're going to do, but you might want to just elaborate a little bit on that. The Promise, what happened?
So, being Mary Rowe, it ended. Mary, there was two men in it, and Mary ended up with one. And so the promise was kind of the response to the readership who wanted to hear more. They wanted to hear more. It felt like their grandparents' time. So I picked up this. This was not intended to be a series, which was hard. So I picked up that thread of and train of thought that the other person would end up in the next book. So that's how the promise came to be. And I want to let readers know too that Being Mary Rowe was my very first novel to write. I did write the memoir, No Turning Back, but this was my first novel. So you'll see people say that they're growing with me as I'm writing, and I appreciate that. So like that's probably having of little consequence, but as I grew, I kind of threw more things at people. So in the promise I threw a few things at people, and it ended in such a way that people were like they were going to kill me, but then I said, well, there's a third book. So the third book answered the question of this of the second book.
Thank you again for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I hope we get to do another one. I look forward to doing another one with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you to anybody that's listening. All right, have a great day, everybody. And I am going to push the stop recording.